guys, I'm back with another video today. I'm really sorry that I couldn't get this to you guys in time for Halloween. College has really been kicking my butt recently. I'll try to have more content out soon. It's just really hard, with school and all, but so today I'm going to rank all 9 Nightmare on Elm Street movies from the worst to the best.
Before we get started, I just want to say I'm not restraining spoilers. There will be a lot of spoilers in this video for the entire franchise, but these are slasher movies, so they're pretty predictable anyway.
Full disclaimer, this is entirely my opinion. My list isn't the right list. Feel free to leave your ranking down in the comments below. I'll try to get back to you if I can. But yeah, let's get started. At number 9 is Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. So this movie has some entertainingly bad parts, but overall it's pretty awful. It really suffers from atrocious acting, especially from our lead heroine, bland characters, cartoony direction, choppy editing. There's some decent ideas here, such as the deaf character. They could have done some interesting stuff with him, but instead we got this. So overall, this movie's pretty awful. There's a reason it has a reputation as the worst slasher movie ever made. I'll say this, at least Englund's having fun.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little soul, too!
Robert Englund's always having fun in these movies, but apart from that, yeah. At number 8 is A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. This one isn't necessarily a bad movie, it's just pretty forgettable. Dan, who is one of the lead heroes of the last movie, goes out like a The direction is awful. It's something straight out of Matilda. They only had 4 weeks to shoot this movie, and I think that really shows. There's some pretty terrible CGI too, which stinks because the original movies had some pretty good practical effects. So I guess this one isn't awful by any means, but it's not very good. At number 7 is A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. So, for those of you that don't know, there's a lot of homoerotic, homosexual stuff in this movie.
The guy gets his rocks off like this. Hangs around queer S&M joints downtown. He likes pretty boys like you.
A lot of undertones and just kind of weird stuff that happens. The documentary My Nightmare on Elm Street is about the lead actor of this movie's experience working on it. So apart from that, this movie has kind of an interesting premise that I don't hate, but it's overall not very good. The bird sequence, what is that? There's some awkward editing, very forgettable side characters, and a very underwhelming climax. There's some memorable set pieces, and like I said, good effects for the time. But overall, this movie's not very good. At number 6 is A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010. So this movie actually has a decent cast, Katie Cassidy, Rooney Mara, Kyle Gallner, Clancy Brown, Connie Britton. And I actually don't think Jackie Earle Haley would have been a bad Freddy had he been given better direction.
It's real. I'm real.
I actually quite like the 2 lead characters in this movie. I think they have some personality. That being said, the rest of the characters are pretty bland and forgettable. There's no memorable death scenes. The CGI is pretty bad. Why did they make us think that Katie Cassidy was going to be the protagonist if Rooney Mara was going to be named Nancy? That didn't work. And I know this has been said a lot of times before, but Freddy Krueger should not be a pedophile. I mean, he's always evil. He's the villain of the series, but that was just crossing a line that didn't need to be crossed. Bringing us into the top 5 is Freddy vs. Jason. So this movie has some cool concepts, like the idea that Freddy can come back from the dead, but because he's been forgotten, he's stopped being able to hurt people. I like the fact that this movie doesn't take itself seriously. It's very much a Taco Bell movie. And the general concept of Freddy needing to bring Jason to Elm Street to inspire fear so that he can come back is actually a good concept. But that being said, this movie is just not nearly as creative or as epic or as grand as it could and should have been. The characters are pretty bland, the dialogue is atrocious. I know slasher movies aren't necessarily known for good acting, but man, the acting is bad in this movie at times.
My best friend was just killed, Dad! So how about giving me some space?
Really, the biggest problem with this movie is that the characters had become stale by this point. We'd seen them so many times that they just weren't scary anymore. Ryan Hollinger made a really good video essay about why this movie was a flop. So overall, it's corny fun. I mean, it's entertaining, but yeah. At number 4 is A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. This is when the movies, to me, start getting good. Not great, but just good, watchable. This movie's script was written by a guy that went on to win an Academy Award for Best Screenplay. So as a result, the main character actually has a pretty solid character arc. There's some interesting direction, like the time loop segment. Some not completely unforgettable characters, by slasher movie standards. And Freddy himself has a really good introduction in this movie.
You shouldn't have buried me. I'm not dead.
That being said, the climax is dumb. This whole idea was getting stale at this point. Plus, this movie does what a lot of movie reviewers consider to be the unforgivable sin. It takes away the victory of the last movie in the first 30 minutes. And even though Kristen goes out in a decent way, it's still a flaw in the movie. Bringing us into the top 3 is New Nightmare. Heather Langenkamp is really good at playing a fictionalized version of herself. There's some entertaining new characters like the babysitter and some fun little homages to the original movie. I think Wes Craven's cameo is fun, and the role John Saxon plays is also really interesting.
Why are you calling me Nancy, John?
Why are you calling me John?
That being said, there are a couple flaws with this movie, like Freddy's makeup I don't think is particularly good, the climax is a little cheesy, and overall the movie's a bit slow. But for the concept of this movie, Freddy coming into the real world, I think this movie is good, for that concept. You can really tell that working on this movie influenced Wes Craven to work on the Scream movies, so it's got that kind of self-parodying, meta vibe to it. So all in all, I like this movie, but it doesn't quite crack the top 2. Our runner-up is the original Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. Now, these top 2 movies here, I could pretty much interchange at just about any time. I really like them both. They're 2 of my favorite slasher movies. But the original one to me just isn't quite as good as the one I put at number 1. That being said, it's a pretty great movie. Freddy Krueger is actually scary. He's referred to as Fred. His voice is deeper.
Please, God.
This is God.
He's shot mostly from the dark, so we never quite get a good look at him. There's some great direction by Wes Craven. He was excellent at building suspense. Rest in peace. There's some really good practical effects for the time and the budget this movie had. There's some really creative death scenes, like Johnny Depp's character. That being said, I guess there are a couple bad things, like some bad acting, and some bad dialogue, but it's a slasher movie. What do you expect, Shakespeare?
And the biggest problem with the movie is the ending. This ending was kind of a compromise between Wes Craven, who wanted to kind of end Freddy Krueger's story, and the producer, who wanted to leave room for a sequel. And it just, 1, it takes away the victory of the climax, and 2, it just looks incredibly fake.
This movie's still a horror classic, a slasher masterpiece, one of those movies I'll probably rewatch over and over and over. But at number 1 is A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. I absolutely unironically love this movie. Heather Langenkamp returns to a career-defining role with a triumph. This movie features a genuinely memorable ensemble cast of characters, and that alone will beat out like 90% of slasher movies. It gives Freddy a chilling origin story, something genuinely original and creative. There's some interesting cinematography choices, and some excellent direction. The guy that directed this movie, Chuck Russell, I haven't seen anything else he's done, but this movie makes me want to watch his other movies. The death scenes are actually sad.
Plus, it is the funniest one in the whole series.
Dream Warriors, great song by Dokken. Robert Englund fully embraces the comedic side of this character.
What's wrong, Joey? Feeling tongue-tied?
In the previous movies, I think he was a bit too serious. And in the following movies, I think he was a bit too funny. He finds the perfect balance here so that he's funny, but in a way that is creepy. I guess there are a couple flaws with it. The showdown between John Saxon's character and Freddy Krueger is pretty disappointing compared to what it could have been. Nancy's death could have been tear-jerking, but it's not given enough time to resonate. Really, the entire ending is just really, really sudden. It feels like,
there's the climactic moment, and then it just kind of ends, right after.
And I really wish this movie hadn't ended with a tease. I think this could have made the cap to a solid trilogy. So yeah, that's it. That's my list. That's my ranking. Thank you guys very much for watching. Tell me your ranking down in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe. Bye.